All right, how's everybody doing? I'm Jeremy Langlois coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens. Sure hope you're doing well out there. So today we are cooking the classic chicken and andouille gumbo. You know, we have a saying here in Louisiana, it could be September when we get that first bit of cold weather. Everybody bust out their gumbo pots because we call that gumbo weather. And we are in December now, and this is just a great dish anytime in Louisiana, but in particularly during cold weather, we love it here in Louisiana. And the key to making a good gumbo is to make a good roux. So we have a lot to go over with not just making the gumbo, but with the roux, but it takes a little bit of time. So I want to go ahead and jump in and get started, and while it's cooking, we're going to talk. So roux for a gumbo is always going to be a neutral oil like a salad oil, never olive oil or anything like that. The reason for it is because olive oil has a low smoke point, meaning if you get it too hot, it can burn. And we don't want that. When something burns, it's going to become bitter. So we're using a good canola oil, salad oil is perfect. And you want to use almost about equal parts flour. So I have a cup of oil, and just to start things off, I have a cup of oil in a nice hot cast iron pan. I got the temperature cranked up to high, and I have a cup and a half of flour that's going to go into it. Now, a couple things to go over with the flour and roux. So, like, making a good roux is like the most classic Louisiana thing that any Louisiana cook or chef needs to master. And it's one of the trickiest things we do. So we'll go over everything in exhaustive detail as we go. But one thing I always like to let people know is be safe, because roux can be what I like to call Cajun napalm. If this blast splashes on you, it will burn you. So we have our cup and a half of oil, or a cup of oil, cup and a half of flour, and a couple tips. Flour itself is hygroscopic, meaning it absorbs moisture out of the air. And in a place like Louisiana, where there's a high humidity all the time, it's going to absorb a lot of moisture. So whenever I start with a roux, a couple things I want you to be aware of for safety. I always start off with a whisk, because a whisk, as opposed to a spoon, which I will switch to, there's less chance to splash around that roux and have it splash on you. And when I throw this flour into this hot oil, you're going to watch I'm going to get a puff of steam. And if you leave your hand directly over the pot and if that steam gets you, it will burn your hand. So we're going to get it in. We get that steam. That's literally that hygroscopic moisture that was in the flour cooking out of there. And we're going to just start whisking away. All right, now that's one of the hardest parts. We already got that done. Just safely be careful getting that flour in there. Now, all we want to do is constantly start to stir this roux. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to bust out the spoon because I want you to see. Look at the color right now. We're at the very early stages. We just started, and look, the spoon and the roux are about the same color. We want to cook this till it gets a dark roux, that good dark gumbo roux. So all we're going to do is keep stirring. Now, a couple things while that starts to cook away. Like always, y'all, our recipes are online. You can find them on our website and on our Facebook feed. So if you're watching this on Facebook, the recipe's already posted right there on our Houmas House Facebook page. And then with that said, a couple fun things here. We have some guests in the audience. If you ever seen our comments on our videos, we have Miss Annette and Mr. Tony right over here. Say hi so they know you're real.
Hi,
Anytime you hear that, anytime you're ever around, be sure, if you're here on a Thursday at 12 o'clock and you just ask somebody, we would love to have you come over and check us out. Just give us a little heads up and you can come right in here and come cook with us. We would love it. And then also, normally my friend Jessie, who's behind the camera, she's not here today. Jessie, drop a comment. I know you're watching this. I don't know where the heck Jessie is, but she's not here. So I enlisted the help of my beautiful, amazing wife, Teresa. She's behind the camera. She's waving right now, but there's no camera pointing at you, Teresa. And she's behind the camera right now because she's a TikTok queen and a pro of social media. I already know that's who I enlist to help whenever I need it. And she's always got my back. I love her so much for that. And then also, it was extremely important that she be here today while I'm making this dish, guys, because when she makes gumbo at home, spoilers, it comes out of the box. She is not happy with the face she just made me with. But anyway, that's just me buying time, because back to the roux that we're cooking here. Cooking a dark roux is something you can't rush. Even though I do have the heat on high and I'm constantly stirring, it's going to take a little bit of time to get that rich, dark color that you're looking for whenever you're making a gumbo. But a couple things I want you constantly doing. You'll notice once you get started, once you throw that flour in that pot, you need to pretty much whisk constantly. If you were to cook this, and let's say you're at a point and it's still fairly blonde in color, meaning it's still maybe on the scale of darkness, more like this, but you start to see little black spots start to form. Well, that means part of the bottom of that roux probably scorched on the bottom of your pan, and there's no two ways around it. You're not going to be able to cook that out. That's burnt little bits of the flour. So you're going to need to throw all that away and start again. Because if you were to try to cook it with that, with that burnt roux, you're going to get a real bitter, scorched taste gumbo, and you don't want that. It's just actually easier just to dump that oil, dump that flour, rinse out your pot, and start back again. Now, just very quickly, we've only been going a few minutes, and where we did start out with that kind of light color, we're already getting a little bit dark. And whenever it starts to turn dark, it does it pretty quickly. Now, I was talking with Miss Annette right before we got started, and she was telling me how when her when her mother would make gumbo, she felt she could never get the roux as dark as her mother's roux was, and I want to maybe offer a couple of suggestions. One thing that people probably don't realize is the next thing we're going to throw in here is going to be our onion, celery, bell pepper trinity. And what a lot of people don't realize is it's that one of the aspects of getting that really dark roux is actually you'll get some color from your vegetables. A lot of people don't realize that, but because the onions have such a high natural sugar content, when we throw those onions in this hot roux, they're going to caramelize and turn brown, and that's going to affect some of that color of the roux. So we're getting very close right now. Teresa, if you could just give me a little shot in the bottom of the pot, because you'll see as that gumbo and that roux starts to come together, it actually starts to get a little thicker. You can start to see the bottom of the pot. Now look where we've come from. We went from here, where it was this color, to now it's a more of a chocolatey peanut butter color, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So when we get to that part, now I'm done with my whisk. I'm not worried about splashing. I'm going to switch to a spoon, and now I'm going to go ahead and get the onion, celery, bell pepper in there. Another thing too, what's great about adding the vegetables in is, think about it. Vegetables have a high water content in them naturally. So if you're worried about everything's really hot here, when you add those vegetables in here, you're going to actually kind of cool off the pan. All that steam coming off, that's the water content that's in those vegetables, and now they're going to start to cook. And just like that, let me pull out a spoon and show y'all, the roux's even darkened a little bit. You see that the color of your mom's roux right there? Yes. Or pretty close? And that's going to be the color of the roux. And again, we didn't achieve that color until we actually threw our vegetables in. Now that was our onion, celery, bell pepper we put in here. Now I have some minced garlic. Minced garlic's going to go in. I always add my minced garlic, I always like to say, just a step after I add my vegetables. I know I say this 100 times if you watch this, but minced garlic can burn very easily under hot conditions. So if I were to just throw the garlic in first before my onions and bell pepper, because garlic can burn so fast, just like the roux, if the garlic scorches or burns, then that's going to impart a bitter flavor, and we don't want that. But by throwing our onions, celery, bell pepper in first, it cools everything off just a hair, and then I can add my garlic. And I like to just cook that down just a little bit till I see it gets that nice rich color, and I can tell that those vegetables inside are starting to get a little wilted. Now, let's talk about, we're making chicken and andouille gumbo here, y'all. So a couple things, there's a couple ways you can go about it, but I thought this would actually be something neat. If you follow our recipe, it starts off with you take a whole chicken, you boil the chicken, you save the stock, you take the meat off the chicken after you boil it, you save the stock, and you use that for your gumbo. That's great. I encourage you to do it. I wanted to show you a tip that if you wanted to try something a little easier that you can do at home. You ever notice almost all grocery stores sell these pre-roasted rotisserie chickens? This is a great thing you could use for gumbo because you get two things from it. First, you can take one like I've done here and pick all the meat off of it. I get rid of the skin, but up to you. I pick all the meat off of it. And then I have, look what I got left over. This might look like a mess and trash to your average person, but me as a chef, I see culinary magic and gold here. I'm gonna throw this in a pot, because it's already roasted bone, so you're gonna have this great flavor. I'm gonna throw that on top with some onions, garlic, and some carrots, and just boil it for about an hour to 2 hours, strain that, and use that as my broth, and it'll be the best chicken stock you can ever make it. However, I'm not the food police, guys. Feel free. Go ahead, buy some pre-boxed chicken broth and just have some diced chicken meat. Either one is going to make a great gumbo. But there's a lot of different ways you can go about this, and this is one easy tip that you could do utilizing something like this. I think it's something great that people don't realize they can do. So I use that to make my stock, which I have here, and now with my roux done, I'm going to start adding stock in and stirring it in. Now, notice what I'm doing here, y'all. I add a little bit of stock and I stir it to incorporate it into the roux, let it come up to a boil, and then I repeat the process. Add some more stock, stir it, and the reason I'm doing that is because roux has to boil to thicken. And so whatever liquid you add to it to thicken with your roux, it has to boil to thicken. So I add a little, so instead of worrying about measuring, which I hate to do, I just keep adding a little bit in, stirring it in until I achieve the thickness that I want. If you like a thicker gumbo, then stop when it looks good to you. Like right now, that looks a little too thick for me. So I'm gonna add another splash of stock to it, and now let that come up to a boil. And this is our gumbo base. We're not close to being done, but this is the base for our gumbo, that good roux, and then adding your stock to it. Now, I like to make it just a hair thinner than what I want my final gumbo. So when I think it looks perfect, I add a splash of stock more. The reason for that is because this is going to cook for an hour or an hour and a half. And what happens when a liquid boils for a while, it reduces and thickens a little bit. So you add a little bit extra just with that in mind. So now we got that good base. We're going to start to flavor this with some really good flavors. And what's beautiful about gumbo, it's all about throwing it in a pot and just letting it cook. And the more it cooks, the better it's going to get. I'm going to add my andouille sausage to it. Now, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. Some people will actually cook their andouille first, take it out of the pot, and then move it here. I just like to throw it in because it's easy. Let's talk about andouille real quick. Andouille is a Cajun-style smoked sausage, and when it's more like ham because whenever they cut the pork on a die, they use a big die, which makes big chunks of meat, and it has a quality similar to ham, but just something absolutely iconic in Louisiana cooking. We put it in anything that we want to add that good flavor to. Instead of something anytime you would normally say maybe use a ham hock, like you're smothering some greens, throw some andouille sausage in there. You're going to get that smoke. You're going to get that spice, and it's going to make everything just perfect. We're going to let that cook. Here's that chicken meat from the rotisserie chicken. This is the chicken right off of here, and I just kind of diced it up, and I'm going to put it in here, and I want this all to simmer for an hour and a half. Put it on low, check in on it every now and then, and as it cooks, several things are going to happen. The chicken meat is going to tenderize and almost kind of shred in the gumbo, which we love. You're going to get the smoke and the spice from the andouille sausage. Those flavors are going to start to permeate and marry into your soup. And then also, if I were to taste this now, it's going to have a very strong roux flavor because we just made it. However, as gumbo simmers, that roux flavor, they call it cooking the roux out, that roux flavor will mellow. The longer you cook it, that strong roux flavor that we would have right now will start to mellow away. So basically, all these flavors start to come together. Let me switch this out. I have one ready right here that's been simmering away for about an hour. And we'll just switch right over to here. And this is exactly what we are looking for in my spoon. Now look what we have here. You can see that meat, that chicken meat's kind of started to shred. You know, we're not having that strong roux flavor. But now we got to kind of season this and finish it off and have it ready for service. So let me show you what we're going to do. A couple things. We're going to add some green onions. They're going to go in. We're going to add some parsley. That's going to go in. You notice I always add my green herbs or my delicate herbs at the end, because if we were to have put them in at the beginning, they would have just cooked away to nothing and you wouldn't even see them in there. I like seeing that nice, bright, green, vibrant color in my gumbo. Hot sauce. How spicy do you like it? Put a couple dashes in there and get it nice and spicy. If you like more heat, this would be a great time to add a little hot sauce, a little sprinkle, be careful, but a little sprinkle of cayenne pepper. I'm a wimp when it comes to spice, so I just do a couple dashes of hot sauce, some good old salt, and I'm gonna crack a little bit of black pepper in here. But if you're using cayenne, just use cayenne instead of black pepper if you like your gumbo spicy. I like it to have a little bit of a kick, but not too spicy because I'm just a wimp when it comes to spicy food. And that's basically it, y'all, how we serve this in the restaurant. Now, oftentimes when I do these demos, I say, well, come this weekend and we'll have it, but this is something that's been on our menu every day since day one. An absolute Louisiana classic. So, Teresa, how do you prefer your gumbo? Potato salad or rice? Teresa says both if you can't hear. That's somewhat of a controversial, I say controversial. Here in Louisiana, a lot of my Cajun friends, they love actually serving potato salad in lieu of rice on their gumbo. I'd actually probably lean more to rice. However, nothing wrong with potato salad as well. I love that as well. But if I could only choose one, I'm probably more of a rice guy. So I got my rice here. What about you, Anthony?
Potato salad, actually.
You got a potato salad?
Rice.
Oh, wow. It's 50-50. Oh, no. It's like we should start our own political parties or something. Rice or potato salad party. I think the world would be a better place if we had those discussions. There we go. Put that out there. We're going to serve some of this. We got some of this good old rice that's going to go on top. And there you have it, guys. Chicken and andouille gumbo. If you have any questions, please hit us up in the comments and let us know. We're happy to answer the questions. Also, do me a favor. That little share button's right there. If you're watching it on your phone, just hit that little share button. It helps us out so much. Other than that, thank you so much for joining in. Thanks to my guests, Tony and Annette, for coming and checking us out. And, of course, to my lovely, beautiful, amazing wife for manning the cameras. I love you, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much, guys.